Dudes with Brews on a Porch presents to you another edition of Strange Brews, Conspiracies, Murder, Ghost Stories, Aliens. They're all coming to get you, my dears.
Craft Brews and Casual Conversations. Joined with us is, there's so many descriptive words you can call this man.
Careful.
God. You can call him... he has the greatest beard you'll ever probably see on a person. He's a radio master. He's a paranormal master. He's an overall just a symbol of sex, and he's just so mystic, and he could be his own thing. His name's Todd. Hello, Todd.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going really well. Thanks again for hopping on the program. I think this is your third appearance on the show.
Is it really?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we actually did like not a live version, but in-person version in the basement of the radio station once, right?
Yep, we sure did. And, we always kind of talk about paranormal stuff on and off the mic, and you have some experience in that, and we want to know even a little bit more about how to do it, how to be a ghost hunter, because you're a part of the series on Amazon Prime, Haunted State, also a couple documentaries. Season 1 is you can watch that now. You can watch both documentaries on Amazon Prime. But before we get into that, let's discuss what Rob and I are drinking today. And 'tis the season for pumpkin. We're drinking Flying Dogs, The Fear, an Imperial Pumpkin Ale, which is, believe it or not, an ale brewed with pumpkin and spices. And it says, why is there only one time of the year where we embrace the fear? At all other times, the fear dominates us, controls us, and prevents us from greatness. Whatever the fear is that consumes you, learn to embrace it. Only then will the true artist in you rise up. 9% alcohol. That's
scary.
That's a boozy beer.
Yeah. I love this the art on this bottle though.
The artwork is actually by the guy that did the artwork for Fear and Loathing.
Nice.
So, are you familiar with that, Todd? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I am. That's why I have not seen the bottle itself for the artwork, but I bet it's pretty cool.
It reminds me of More Scary Stories, or Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Remember those books?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's got that splatter effect, which Fear and Loathing had as well.
How does it taste, though? Because everything, like pumpkin spice is not my favorite thing, so whenever people talk pumpkin, I worry about it. What does it taste like?
It definitely has a pumpkin taste to it, kind of the spice taste to it. It's pretty good. I on the other hand am kind of the proverbial basic bitch when it comes to the Halloween time. I love all things pumpkin, so this is it's not overpowering. It's got that beer ale taste to it. It's got a good blend. Maybe you'd enjoy this one. I don't know.
All right.
It depends on if you like the taste of pumpkin spice, because that is prevalent here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really depends for me. Sometimes I can do it, and then other times I can't. It's got to be very specific. Like maybe like a pumpkin spice coffee wouldn't be so bad. Pumpkin pie is okay, but then you start doing some of the other weird stuff, and I'm not sure. But I'll have to give it a try, see what happens.
Yeah, you can get this at the local grocer. I think I got this at Festival Foods. So shout out to that lovely chain. But Todd, we've talked about it before. I have a lot of interest in ghost hunting or paranormal investigation, however you want to phrase it. Something that you have experience in. And we kind of want to get the 101 on it. So how did you get into it? And I guess if you're Rob or I, what equipment do we need? How do we do this? How do we set something up where we can actually experience some of this?
I got interested because of the movie Amityville Horror, because when I was very young, that movie came out and it scared the shit out of me. And I couldn't believe that something like that could be real. And, the big premise of it was, this is a real ghost story. And you heard all the stories about it. And the paranormal investigators, the Warrens, right, went in there and they did some investigating and like, who's the Warrens? Who are these people? And so that kind of goes by the wayside for a while. And then all of a sudden, shows like Ghost Hunters come out back how many years ago now, 15, 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Ghost
and you
Hunters,
realize people actually do this stuff.
Right.
And that's where my interest really kicked off. Years ago, on the radio for Halloween. We did a special broadcast from a location in Fond du Lac called the Octagon House, and we had a paranormal group come out and do some investigating and all that kind of stuff. So that's where it really kicked off for me.
Okay.
And I still really, really like it. But there's so many ghost shows on TV now. It's almost like, oh, is it even interesting anymore to hear a voice or see something happen because it's been done so much. So I kind of wonder about it if we're just being oversaturated with all of this kind of stuff. But if you have interest, good for you, because I think that gives you, first off, you've got an open mind. I go into it as skeptic all the time. Are you guys skeptics? Are you true believers or what?
I'm 100% believer when it comes to ghosts or spirits and stuff like that.
But you don't think everything that goes boom in the night is a ghost, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Otherwise, I'd be a very paranoid guy. Rob actually lives in a haunted apartment.
Really?
Well, there was a murder that happened in my apartment, and my ex-girlfriend was getting scratched quite a bit. I've gotten scratched now. Yeah, there's some weird stuff that happens in my apartment, that's for sure.
So have you done any research on like who it was, what actually transpired, anything like that?
Yeah. It was actually a pretty big case in Fond du Lac, where a guy was living with his mom, and I don't remember her name. I don't know if I should say it anyway, but I found out what the victim's name was, and he killed her in the apartment and then put her in the garage for 3 months. And then brought her back up into the apartment, and him and his mom cut her into pieces, and then took her to a place and burnt her body, and then put it in the Lake Winnebago.
This wasn't that long ago.
07 or 09, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, for some reason, that rings somewhat true to me, and it's weird because I have a family story that's not far off from that too, but that happened like in '94, so that's way off. See, now here's the thing: the scary part of ghost hunting is not the ghosts or the energies; it's the real people. They're the assholes you got to be scared of all the time, because they're the ones that'll murder you.
Right. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, and Rob's been watching a lot of Ghost Adventures with.
Ooh.
How do you feel about the Ghost Bros?
It's
What you think, bro?
Yeah, right. Dude, did you see? Okay, like it's good for entertainment, but I would never suggest investigating like that. You can if you want. I have a couple of thoughts on it. Number one, I'm a little bit more chill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to listen a little bit more. I'm going to kind of get the feel for the room before I go in there and start, throwing my arms up and telling somebody to bring it on or something like that. And also, I think there's got to be a little bit of respect here, because we're talking to, in most cases, the energies at one time were human beings. And, if you've ever lost a family member, the last thing you ever want them to have to deal with is some assholes like these guys walking in and being rude. So how you treat another person is pretty much how I kind of go into the investigation thing. For entertainment, if it's on and there's nothing else on, I'll turn it on for a while, and then I'll roll my eyes and shut it off.
I want to just throw this in there. I watch it to laugh at it.
Absolutely. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
They've actually gotten some really good evidence over the years. And I know that there is a group of viewers who want that. And that's what they're giving the viewers what they want. So I applaud them for that. But if you want to investigate, you got to figure out what you're trying to figure out. Why are you doing it? What's your real purpose for it? Are you going to get scared? Is it like a Halloween thing? If that's it, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But really know what you're getting into, and realize that, think about the fact, if something does happen, what's your response going to be? Because if something does happen, is it going to be fight or flight, or are you going to be able to deal with what may come down the line to you? So, like, starting an investigation, know why you're doing it.
Yeah, well, when I started looking into what happened in my apartment, because I was having issues there, and then somebody told me what happened there. Like, I was already sleeping with the lights on before I knew that any incident happened. And I started looking into it so that I could try and cleanse the apartment.
Right.
And it was to a point where for a while I was announcing myself every time I went into my apartment saying, hey, this is your place. I'm just staying here.
Right.
And it's like, and I've seen some like ghost paranormal people say you got to claim your space. If you say that, then you give them carte blanche or whatever. I don't know if I agree with that because it left me alone until my girlfriend at the time came and she was getting harassed quite a bit. Like she was getting scratched consistently.
I think that's one thing that's really misinformation is when people say, well, this is what you do, or this is how you react, or this is how you stand your ground. Every situation is different. Just like if you go up to a group of people, each person you encounter is going to be different. And so what you do with one may not be what you do with another. And every time you investigate or every time you have an experience, it's an eye-opening experience. Something happened that blew you away and you went, I never even thought about that before. So in your case, yeah, you can go in there and go, get out, this is my place. You really don't know. You're assuming the energy is the energy that you're speaking of and that incident that happened. And quite possibly it could be, but it could be something totally else. So you don't know what you're dealing with. And if dealing with it worked for you by saying, listen, it's your space, I'm just here for now, and things kind of calm down, you did the right thing. In another circumstance, you may have to do something else. I also caution people when they cleanse and they do like saging and salting and stuff like that, be real careful about that, because if you don't know what you're doing, you can actually lock something in place instead of getting rid of it.
See now, yeah, like, okay, so I actually talked to somebody who like is holistic. They research holistic healing and things, and they came in and helped me do the cleansing because I wasn't going to do it by myself. But once I did the sage, and then there was still like they gave me some like medallions that were blessed to put around my to put around the apartment. When I put those up, things got bad until I took them down. Like I took them down because the energy changed in the apartment so drastically with them being there.
So my question right off the bat is, why haven't I been invited to come over and check this out?
Because I missed the last episode that you were on
a year ago.
We should do that sometime. I think that'd be great. As far as you guys getting out and investigating, the first thing is have a reason for doing it. What's your approach going to be? Is it going to be like Ghost Adventures, or is it going to be more of a laid back kind of let's see what's going on here? I do suggest having some equipment. Basic stuff like an audio recorder is really, really important.
Something like just like a Zoom, like one of those small field recorders.
That works great. Even like an old school MP3 player or recorder works really well too. Okay. As long as you can throw it onto a laptop or something and listen back to it with headphones or big speakers. I'm a true believer in K2 meters. I love them. They've kind of fallen out of fashion a little bit because there's some new equipment that have taken the place that also records seismic activity and weather change and stuff like that. And I've got that as well. But the K2 meter does a really good job of catching those EMF situations, electromagnetic fields and stuff like that. And then a camera, a digital camera to record. Get something, because and this happens a lot, even in our investigations where we're recording and stuff like that, and something happens and there wasn't a camera on it, and now you have no evidence of it.
Right.
So with a small investment, you can have just a couple of things that really, really can help you investigate. And then I just have some patience. I've investigated with a lot of people, and everybody's got a different technique. Don't do it alone, and find somebody who has the same technique that you have. I think it's really important.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people too, with watching Ghost Adventures or even Ghost Hunters or all this paranormal, other, shows that they have, they also need to realize, like, you're not doing this in 2 hours. You're spending, you're there for, 9, sometimes maybe 10 hours. So you're really, it's an investment of time, and it's usually at night, and you're putting effort into it, not just showing up and then all the spooky stuff happens.
And have an open mind to it. I'll give you a quick example. Something that happened that was kind of mind blowing to me was you go out and you investigate, and again, everybody kind of has their own way of doing it. But I think you've got to approach it with a much broader open mind. And I'll give you an example. We went to a location where we really weren't getting anything, and we spent several hours there, and we were all pretty drained, and we were sitting around, and I just kind of said very low, but everybody could hear me. We've been here a long time. We appreciate you being here with us. Hasn't been a lot of communication the way we've allowed you to try and communicate, because we said, well, use this device, use that device, say this, do that. And I said, if there's something that you do all the time that you can do really, really well, please do that for us right now. And as soon as I said that, the thing that always happens at this location happened. It was nothing that we asked to have happen throughout the night to communicate with us, but it was at that exact moment. Not only did we catch it on audio, we got some video and all that kind of stuff with it too. So again, you're in their space. It's like walking up to somebody and saying, okay, talk to me in Japanese, or I want you to do a backflip with a half twist. We don't know what it's like once we leave our bodies. We don't know what kind of skills we're going to have or what abilities we'll have to communicate. I think we have to open up the door and say, whatever it is that you can do, use that to communicate with us. And it was a real eye-opening experience for me. It's like, well, we just spent like 7 hours with all these gadgets, all these recording devices, and asking them to do this and asking them to do that. And all I said was, do what you do best. And boom, it happened. So again, you're dealing most likely with energy that at one time was a human. So treat them as such.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you go, you do the investigation, you have the audio to review, you have the footage to review. What do you look for when you're kind of like, investigating your findings or looking for findings? What is it that you kind of look for? And Rob had a question in regards to like some video stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're taking, say, snapshot photos, right? Like, do you want to use a flash? Do you not want to use a flash? When you're trying to catch something, there's like in terms of settings and how you're going about it. What do you do to make? I guess there's so much equipment and there's so many questions that I have about that equipment. So I'm just going to start with the camera. If you're trying to take stills, do you want to flash? Do you not want to flash? Well, what do you do?
Here's the situation again. Like if you talk to a photographer and said, what would you use to take a picture? And they would say, well, what kind of lighting is there? Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? What's the atmosphere like? Is it a dusty atmosphere? All that kind of stuff. So each situation's different. I will tell you that with a regular camera, I've seen very little evidence, because I think that conditions have to be just right for that very split second for you to get it. Things can happen in a 2 or 3 second time span that you won't catch with a camera. A camera that I do think works very well for stills is a full spectrum camera. If you're going to invest in something, get a full spectrum camera that sees all spectrums on the board that we don't even see.
Okay, can you expand on the full spec, because in the say Ghost Adventure realm, they have the full spectrum, not still camera, but video camera.
Sure.
I've never seen them get anything with that I can understand, or that they've pointed out, like we got this evidence because of this full spectrum camera. So like what are you seeing that you're not seeing with a regular camera with a full spectrum? What shows up?
Well, anomalies do. And here's the odd thing about that. Full spectrum, I think, is better as a snapshot camera than it is as a video camera. Because you can take them in very quick succession and see the difference. We've never had a lot of great experience with full spectrum when we used it as a video camera, but as we've used it as a snapshot camera, we've actually gotten quite a bit of stuff. In one location, there was a desk that reportedly had moved on its own and had weird things happen around it. And we used that full spectrum camera in a succession of several pictures. And You had two pictures of normal, and then all of a sudden there was an anomaly that was not seen with the naked eye in one shot, and then it went back to normal. We've seen a succession of normal shots, and then all of a sudden seeing what seemed to be some sort of white mist or energy come up behind somebody and then vanish. So again, each situation's a little bit different. I really love IR camera as far as recording video, but we've had some good success with a full spectrum, not as video, but as a snapshot camera.
So when you talk about anomalies, like, and I'm just using Ghost Adventures. I've seen plenty of Ghost.
Dude, I'm gonna have to start talking like them if I.
Yeah,
have to
right. Yeah, and I apologize. I kind of went. I went down. I went on a kick where it was like I couldn't stop. Well, myself.
It's Zach. He transforms his energy to you, and he just stands there with those thick glasses and his.
I gotta go, man. I'm just so
hair.
emotional, dude. I'm so emotional, bro.
How many times can this guy have an entity enter his body?
Right?
Come on, beat it.
So based on that show, I'm just gonna those little white orbs that they talk about. Is that what you mean by anomaly, or is
it? Could be many things. It could be shadows. It could be a white mist. It could be an orb. You have to be very careful with orbs because all orbs are energy, and I happen to believe that all ghosts are energy.
Yeah.
So it could be many things. I'm not a big believer in orbs unless it's really, 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 unless you can really say, listen, that is something that's not a fly, that's not dust, whatever. I'll be the first person to go, nope, I don't believe it.
Yeah, I found myself analyzing every time that because they would show those little orbs. I'd go, all right, like look at how is it flying around through the air? Is that a normal pattern? Is that because
right? Is there a trail? Can you see a trail behind it? If you get a close up and you're able to take it frame by frame with a good camera, that's the other thing. I mean, you really have to have a good video camera to be able to go frame by frame and see whether or not it's got wings and all that kind of stuff. So I'll always say that's interesting, but unless something else happens at that specific point where you get a spike on the K2 or you get some audio on a recorder, or if you've got an SB7, which I also like, but it can be used to a point where you just want to kill somebody with it. You can use that information as evidence. I think if you rule everything else out and something else happens with it, it makes it more believable to me.
So when speaking of like electrical, the energies, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you use those like motion sensor lights that light up?
Have used them.
Do you think that those work or prove anything or show anything?
Well, again, by themselves, it's something, just going off. And to me, it can be interesting if something else happens as well. I like to have layers of information when something happens. I like to say, well, the K2 went off, the motion sensor went off, and boy, that was a cool breeze that just blew by here. Like must have dropped 10 degrees. Those are the kinds of things where I go, that's interesting. I still don't go, hey, there's a ghost. Okay. But I do go, that was interesting. And what I like about the K2 is if you're having a conversation with the energy there and you're getting hits, indirect response to your questions, I like that a lot. So the odd orb or the odd cold spot, that's interesting. Let's layer it up with some other stuff that happened at the same time. There are some new devices out there. I think they're called EDIs. I could be wrong on that, but they're little units that have K2 capabilities. Also, they track moisture in the air, barometer, barometric pressure, temperature, and seismic movement, and they record it onto a little disc so that you've got all that information. And if you get several things all at once, you can say, well, right there, we had 3 different things happen along with, let's say, a voice that we heard. So again, it's just layers of proof. One layer on its own is like, that's weird. You move on.
How often are you, when you are reviewing audio, do you hear something within the audio that you didn't hear in the moment, or vice versa, where you heard something in the moment and maybe you didn't catch it on audio? Are you finding more post production or during the investigation?
More post.
Okay.
But I will tell you something, and it's happened a little bit more frequently, and I'm not sure why, but had an instance that I've never had happen. Now, I've been kind of pseudo-investigating for, or whatever it was, 15 years, whatever, 20. In a round of investigations 2 years ago, we were standing, 3 people, kind of in a circle, and we had the SB7 going, and we had a recorder. SB7 is that little device that rolls through the radio channels to see if they can communicate that way. And there was a growl right in front of us, not off a speaker, not from the SB7, not from our equipment, but literally in the air in front of us.
Ooh, that's creepy.
And all 3 of us went, "What was that?" And the guy that was running the camera didn't hear it. Kind of blew us off, to be honest with you. And we kind of went, "Wow, that was kind of interesting." Again, just one piece of evidence. So you kind of go, Although when you hear something that you've never heard before in front of you, it's pretty eye-opening.
Right.
Did you
So
catch
we continued
that
on.
a
It
microphone?
happened again. It happened a second time. And then when we reviewed the evidence, it was crystal clear. And it was right next to the microphone that we were holding.
Crazy.
So, like, those are the things. Like, we heard it, we got it on video audio, and we got it on audio that we were able to listen to later on. So there's your 3 layers right there. Personal experience, where not just one person, but 3 people heard it, had it on audio from the camera and on audio from the device we were holding. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you, I guess, are picking a location, I think a lot of novice people, or people like Rob and I who want to just, kind of dabble in it a little bit, their first instinct is go, let's hit up a cemetery.
Right.
What other locations would you, I guess, obviously you have to get clearance, you have to get permission to be on the premises and be doing these things, but what would you look into outside of a cemetery? I don't even know that cemeteries are necessarily the best places to be, because I don't, hopefully you'd like to think those people are at rest, but you might not know. So yeah, we're kind of, your show Haunted State, it's primarily, I want to say, all in Wisconsin, right?
Yes, all Wisconsin.
Okay, so you get clearance and everything like that, but where could a couple people just interested in maybe looking into things start?
I would start at apartments like Rob's.
Okay.
I really would. I'd start with residences and talk to people. People got a story. This happened at my house, that happened at my house. You may go there and there may be nothing. You may go to 5 locations and nothing happened. The other thing I think is really important too, and I've learned this over the years, is you have to have the right energy to have this stuff happen to you. And I think that's why some people have stuff that's very, very evident happen to them. And there's some people that are in the same location and it never happens to them. So if you're like, it sounds like Rob's had some stuff happen. So Rob, you seem like you're probably pretty open to it. You're probably going to experience a lot as an investigator. Make sure that when you choose the people around you that come with you that are part of your investigation team, you choose the right sets of energy. Well, if my thought process is right and everything is energy, everything in the world is energy. Okay. And I also believe when you die, your energy doesn't just stay in one location. Like, I die and I love the radio station so much that I go hang out in the basement. No, that's not what happens. In my mind, in my belief system, when you die, your energy is able to be everywhere it wants to be. It can be, so if I have a dead loved one right now, they could be with me, they could be with my other family members, they could be out fishing on a lake if that's where they want to be, they could be someplace totally else, all at the same time. So if energy really is the connection between us and the people and the energies that we're communicating with, make sure the people you surround yourself with have similar energies or that it works together. Otherwise, you negate any efforts to find anything.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because in terms of, like, when I have things happening in my apartment, it tends to be in times of like chaos or when things are going on with my life that are, you know, either out of control or I'm breaking habits or patterns. And I've heard that has like a play like, or that like,
well, your energy is feeding that.
yeah. So
Your energy is feeding that.
Okay.
So, and there are situations too where, you know, poltergeists, where an individual, a living human being, is responsible for everything going on because they're creating the energy that's making these things happen. I'm not saying you're a poltergeist, but you may have the ability to share more energy in different ways than the average individual. So, again, this is all like, you have to be really open-minded to this stuff.
Mm.
If you're going to close your mind to possibilities, even if you don't agree with them. I don't always agree with everything that the guys on Ghost Adventures do, but I have to be open to what they're doing in order to learn, in order to experience. So
you're saying Rob is the chosen one, and he can
yeah, Rob's the guy. I just think if he's having these experiences, then he probably has the ability to experience other stuff too. It's probably not just this location. Were there any stories of the previous tenants dealing with this stuff?
I think Rob's the only one at post that murder, right?
Oh my God.
No, there was one guy that moved in and then
Okay.
moved out. He moved to the apartment across the hall.
Because of it? Or
There's two stories. The story from the people that lived in the building, they said that things got too weird for him and he didn't want to live there anymore. What the manager of the property told me was he wanted a 2-bedroom instead of a 1-bedroom.
and maybe, and this is what we've also found, you know, there's so much folklore with locations. You can do a little research on that pretty easy by talking to the guy. If you have any desire to talk to another human being, which I never do, but if you want to, you can always have that conversation with him.
Yeah,
and kind of find out.
He left. Otherwise, I definitely would have asked him about that. Like right after I moved in, I think he moved out. But the thing about my apartment that sucks for what we're talking about is that it's an apartment complex. So it's like you gotta rule out noises. There's a certain type of vocalization that I've heard in my apartment that that I can't dispute as easily because it's almost like it's right out. It's a whisper right in my ear. That's happened a few times.
And that's when I'm not in bed with him.
Yeah. Normally that's just Drew, but but I tend to discount the vocal stuff because of the people in the apartment, but there's I think the most like the craziest thing that happened that wasn't like just like the scratching that happened at a certain period was me and my girlfriend at the time were like going to sleep and the door of my bedroom just unlatched and opened and then it closed again. And I started talking to it, and I don't remember what questions I asked, but I was like, you know, open the door if you like if it's yes or close the door if it's no or something. And we were getting it to like the door was just like on cue, opening and closing. It was in the middle of winter, so all the windows were closed and everything. And it was just weird that it went that way. And then when we stopped asking questions, it stopped opening and closing.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Did I not tell you that?
Maybe you have.
I feel like I've told that story on this podcast before.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd ever sleep in that place again. I'll just be honest.
Everybody tells me that, and I always said if I ever get scratched, I'll leave. And I just got scratched like what was that 3 months ago? Did I send you that picture?
Yeah, you did.
And it was on my foot, and it was like because there's something that comes with being scratched in terms of like. It doesn't hurt like a scratch. It hurts like a burn almost.
Yeah. And that's very typical from what you'll hear people say when they've gotten scratched is, ow, what was that? Because it's almost like you said, a burn situation, and it comes on very quickly. And I mean, obviously this thing or this energy is trying to communicate with you. Now, here's the other thing that we always have to keep in mind. A scratch may just be a form of communication. You never know. again, we don't know what the energies can actually do. So if they've learned, or they've learned to communicate somehow, and maybe they knew that you had said something like, if I ever get scratched, I'm leaving. It may not be necessarily as evil or as bad as you think it is. And so you always have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, this is what it's telling me it is. This is what it's saying it is. This is what it's doing. But we can't take it for face value. Just like you can't walk up to somebody and ask them to tell you their life story and think that you're getting 100% of the truth. You don't know.
Yeah,
So,
if they only have two words that they can say, like if there's the two things they can do is open a door and scratch you.
that's what they're going to try and do. That's how they're going to try. Now, obviously, you don't want to get scratched, so you got to deal with that. But man, you should, like, seriously. Drew, why are we not over there like for Halloween?
Probably because I'd have to clean, and I'm a lazy person.
And you'd have to get your roommate to go away for a little bit.
He'd do that.
He's a weird guy.
He is a weird guy.
You really probably should. And you do what you got to do, but I would so be into, like, that would be such a cool investigation.
Well,
so.
and honestly, I feel like there's two different entities there almost, like,
right,
because the energy shifts in that apartment over, there's a long period of time, like through the summer, where things tend not to happen, but then when you get into the months of when the murder happened and when the secondary act happened, that's when things kind of pick up a little bit. But once I saged and put up those amulets or whatever, the energy in the apartment changed so drastically and got so, like, it's so weird when Zach Bagans, like, or those guys go like, oh, I'm so emotional, or I feel this way, or whatever. But there was a while when I was like, I literally, like, anytime I was washing my face in the bathroom or brushing my teeth, I would get this intense feeling of something rushing up behind me, to the point where I was like, not cool with like standing there with my back to the door. And it's nothing you can prove, but it's a feeling that you can't get over. And then I took those amulets out and things kind of went back to normal. And then, like, as different people moved in with me or whatever, like, the energy changes dramatically over time.
I think the thing that's hard for people to understand is the whole feeling thing. And unfortunately, that is part of investigating. The producer and director on our show doesn't like to use personal experiences because you can't back them up. But as an investigator, that is one of the things that you use to investigate. You use your eyes, you use your ears, your nose, your sense of smell, and your sense of feel, not with your fingers, but things around you. Mm-hmm. And I've had situations where I've done an investigation and it followed me home. Something followed me home, and it was with me for quite some time. And so you do have to be careful of that kind of stuff. You sound like you're really, really open. I would be very surprised if you weren't some sort of empath or something like that, where you felt other people's energies all the time and didn't even realize it. So that might be something for you to look into as well, to protect yourself, not just from ghosts, but from everyday people's energy, because they can really wear you down too.
You know what? I think you're right, Todd. Rob is an empath. And
you think so, really?
Yeah, I think, and Rob is
my therapist thinks so too, actually.
Yeah, so I think you're onto something.
How much do you pay your therapist? Because I'll take over for whatever he's making an hour.
Actually, she doesn't charge me right now.
She's one of those situations.
She used to, but she's really cool. But and she's an energy. She's like, there's some people that subscribe to the energy idea, which I'm totally one of them. Mm-hmm. I believe that everything is energy. We're energy. Even if light is energy and light is the reason that we see everything, then everything comes through in these waves of energy. And that, like, whether, a lot of people with paranormal investigations or probably not even investigators, but normal people that I talk to, they talk about the energy of the spirit. But you like, the second part of that is the energy of that you give off as well. It all interacts. So it's like, and she totally believes in that. So I don't know.
Crazy. Well, man, you really have kind of opened my eyes to a better perspective on things, Todd, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and kind of give us these lessons. I, for one, definitely I'm intrigued by the investigative process and experiencing these things. It's just something I've always been interested in. I have very limited kind of encounters, I guess you could say. There's been some when I grew up at my dad's farm, there was stuff that happened here and there. And we also had people who lived upstairs at the time have some pretty crazy experiences, and to the point where they brought a medium to my dad's old farmhouse, and they said that it's a portal to and from the afterlife.
Yikes!
Which, and I always got like weird vibes when I was like by myself. I was like, it was like you said, it's this feeling of discomfort or being uncomfortable and stuff like that. But this is really something I'd like to dig into a little bit more, and I think you've given us a lot of really good information and a lot of really good ways to look at what we're saying, because even in the example of the scratchings, they always right away on any show that you're going to watch associated with this is an evil entity, but maybe it's
right.
not. So I appreciate the wisdom.
And honestly, the thing that I didn't bring up is I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't believe I forgot this. But when Jenny got scratched, she got a word scratched into the back into her back.
Shut up.
Into her back. Where like because she was a little bit weird and stuff too, but I was like paying very close attention to when she was out of the room, when she was in the room with me, and what was going on with her. And God, I can't believe, what the heck was the word? Did I tell you?
I don't think you ever told me this. No, the word.
How do you not tell the world that story if there's a word that's scratched in somebody's skin?
Yeah, well, it happened on like one time. It happened on her leg, and I thought, well, maybe I that was I was a little skeptical of what to believe with her, because she kind of lied about some things. But when it showed up on her back, like in a place that I don't think I can reach to and especially to be able, it was like it was not there, and then 5 seconds later it was there.
Well, I think when you tell people, too, a lot of people are so quick to dismiss anything that you have to present, unless you have that audio evidence or video evidence. You can even take a picture of a scratch on a back, and people are still going to be like, well, that person's just this, or they're going to be.
Well, and I have to be honest with you, that is the basis of where I start with things. I am open to it, but my first basis is, okay, what are we dealing with, something paranormal, or are we dealing with something that's not paranormal?
Mm-hmm.
And so like in that situation, if there's a word on her leg, my first inclination is going to be, she put it there.
That was mine too.
If it's on her back, and she can't do it, and Rob says he didn't do it, and she doesn't have some other guy down the hall that she's sleeping with or something do it, then now we've got something paranormal. Now you've got something pretty incredible in that location. And Drew, if you want to, investigate, and you say you've had limited experiences, hang around with him, because he's got it going on. You want to experience it. And I think your energies would be good enough that it would happen.
And there's an open invitation. And I like, in terms of either of you guys, like when things start to happen, which I feel like right now my life is kind of in a state of chaos. It's coming up on the time of year when things normally get crazy there, especially when I'm not set in a pattern or in a habit. I truly don't have any issue with people, and if you, Drew, especially want to come and do a little
if there's any investigation and you guys don't invite me, I'm going to be royally pissed.
Well, you are invited.
And then I'll come back and fucking haunt you.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again so much. Let's remind people of where they can watch Haunted State. How can they see, some of the stuff that you've experienced?
All right. Season 1 is on. It's streaming right now, Amazon Prime. Look for Haunted State. We are working on season 2. There's actually a bonus episode coming out very soon for season 1. That'll also be interesting, but you'll see locations all over Wisconsin. It was a really fun and kind of in our area in Wisconsin. So if you're from the Fox Valley, from Northeast Wisconsin, you'll see some locations that you're aware of.
Awesome.
Or if you're our listeners and you want to see the area that we're recording in,
right?
That's
There you
where
go.
you can go and see some visual, see what we see every day.
That's right. And Todd, I wouldn't be, I would kick myself in the butt because I kind of hoot and holler about your amazing Casey Kasem impression, and Rob
Oh,
hasn't
God.
heard it.
Let's hear it.
So if you could just present that to if you could channel your Casey Kasem and give us a proper intro, that'd be great.
Now our long distance dedication. It comes to Rob and it goes out to the ghost at his house. Rob says, Casey, will you tell the ghost to shove it up his ass and quit scratching me? Rob, here's your long distance dedication.
That's
That's
great.
all I
If
got.
there's an investigation, you might have to do my voicemail.
I'll do that.
All
From
right.
the other side.
All right, Todd, I appreciate it. Thank you.
It was good talking to you.
See ya.
Pew pew! Audio. Goodbye, everyone.